Is there anything good about bad driving conditions? We'll find out this week on Motoring 2005.
TSN's Motoring 2005 is brought to you by the new Q from Quaker State. Unleash all your horses. And Midas, for mechanics known for their work and their word. Trust the Midas touch.
You know, recently I was in Phoenix, Arizona. 80 degrees, sunny skies, simply beautiful. But I was surprised, and maybe naively, at how many 4x4 sport utilities I saw on the road. And I had a couple of thoughts on it. One, why would people waste money on technology they'll never use? And two, those people will never get to experience the fun and the thrill of driving an all-wheel vehicle in proper conditions like this. And right now, it's 20 below, there's a minus 30 wind chill, and there's lots of snow. And I can just see all those people in Arizona green with envy. Anyway, I'm just outside of Quebec City. This is a spot that Volvo has selected to showcase its 2005 V50 and XC70. Now, as we all know, Volvo has been a company known for its safety, but very quickly, Volvo has become a family of all-wheel drive, and with considerable success.
Volvo and all-wheel drive goes back to 1996, and from 1996 to now, we've really begun to evolve. Dating back to 1999, we were 14% of all the vehicles sold in Canada that were Volvos came with all-wheel drive. You know, it's less than 10 years. We now sell 60% of all the cars that we sell in Canada are sold with all-wheel drive. 3 out of every 5 cars. It's quite impressive. We're out here to experience the new 2005 V50 T5 all-wheel drive, like it was meant to be driven on winter conditions, alongside the 2005 XC70. The opportunity to test drive both cars on a nice track through some of the best roads in Canada, quite honestly, in winter conditions, with some of Canada's foremost journalists. It really is a good program for us to test the cars and to get some good feedback on those cars in some of the toughest winter conditions in Canada.
They're selling an awful lot of all-wheel drives. I think it's what people should have, because I think that all-wheel drive and 4 snow tires on a vehicle like the V50 and the XC70 it's a better deal than an SUV. I think you're going to have more stability, you're lower to the ground, and I think it's the kind of car that more Canadians would do well if they gave it a try.
XC70 and XC90 sold standard with all-wheel drive. It's one way, obviously, to get your all-wheel drive numbers up, but the reality is customers are saying we want it on S60s, S80s, V70s, S40s, and V50s as well. We're very proud of the offering that we have. In fact, every car we sell in Canada is available with all-wheel drive. We're looking at the 2005 V50 T5 all-wheel drive, new to this market, replacing the outgoing V40. It comes in 3 different trim packages, a 2.4i, a T5, and a T5 all-wheel drive. The T5 all-wheel drive is the vehicle that you drove today. The 2005 XC70, the other vehicle that you drove today, price point $47,000, as equipped in the low 50s. It is a very popular car for us in this marketplace. In fact, XC70 in Canada, we've done so well, we're actually the 3rd best-selling market in the world for Volvo with XC70.
I'm very impressed with the V50. I think it's a perfect size for a family, a small family. Put a rack on the roof and lots of luggage room in the back. It's very comfortable, and the all-wheel drive makes it a car that is really comfortable in this kind of weather. With the snow and the slippery roads, it's really sure-footed. The XC70 is a bigger car that I think will do well for a family with a couple of kids. Again, put a roof rack on it, and there's lots of room for all the stuff that you have to take to the cottage or to the ski area every weekend.
Volvo, not that long ago, bought by Ford. That can be a scary thing for everybody involved. But it's been a pretty successful story, hasn't it?
It's actually been a very strong story for us, and every relationship is different in the industry. And the relationship with Ford Motor Company and ourselves, what they do is they leave us alone to develop the vehicles that we believe are best to fit the needs of our customers. They provide us the capital and the funding to bring those vehicles to market, and that's really a very good relationship.
The worst source of automotive pollution doesn't come out of the tailpipe. I get real mad later on Kenzie's Corner.
Man, that was close.
After years of neglecting its small car portfolio, GM's back on track. Along with the regular versions of the Cobalt comes a supercharged special. This week on Test Drive, the Cobalt SS. Along with an outrageous array of colours, the SS earns a look that's as serious as its credentials, as the deeper air dams, rocker extensions and over-the-top spoiler say quick. Thankfully, the engine allows the SS to live up to this visual bragging. The supercharged version of GM's 2-litre Ecotec engine slams 205 horsepower and 200 pounds-feet of torque to the pavement with authority. The best part is that it feels as though all of the power is available from Rev 1. As a result, the SS takes just 6.6 seconds to sprint to a metric ton and needs only 4.9 seconds to bridge the 80 to 120 gap. For those with more money than sense, well, it also means that smoke in the front tyres is just a stab of the gas away. You know, this Cobalt SS is equal parts vroom and boom. The vroom comes from the engine and an oversized tailpipe, the boom from a 10-inch subwoofer that sits in the trunk. Now, whilst that thing adds wonderful bass to the stereo, it does have a problem. The combination of the size of the spoiler and the vibrations caused by the subwoofer, well, you can forget about using the rearview mirror. The transmission is also remarkably refined. While the linkage does feel a little too mechanical at times, the throws are short and slick, the clutch light and progressive, and for the first time in a very long time in a GM product, the bike point's in the right spot. As a result, what could have been a temperamental ride proved to be remarkably civilized. In short, the SS is as happy tooling around town as it is dragging away from a stoplight. The same applies to the handling, as the SS ate the pylon test for lunch. Even when you take liberties, it remains flat, fast and unflustered. You know, the reason this thing's so good through the pylons boils down to good old-fashioned engineering. A rock-solid chassis, good stiff springs, the right damping characteristics, and these massive 18-inch 45 series low-profile tyres. Now, these things provide the grip that allows the suspension to do its thing. Now, whilst this thing is no Corvette, well, it's about as good as it gets when you consider the price. Inside, the exterior's loud theme is thankfully muted, with the tester's cockpit being lined in basic black and aluminum trim. For those that want more interior bling, a two-tone interior is available. It's also functional, at least up front. The leather buckets offer enough support and bolstering to keep the riders planted, and there's enough adjustment to accommodate those with longer legs. As for the instrumentation, it's complete and includes a boost gauge for the supercharger. This back seat, well, it was designed for one of two things, a head case or a suitcase. There's no leg room, and as you can see, absolutely no headroom. Braking comes from discs at all four corners and a decent anti-lock system. While the stopping distances are commendably short, 31.7 metres from 100k, it's the system's performance in the extreme that impresses. Even after several back-to-back high-speed stops, the pedal remained firm underfoot and fade only began to surface after the fourth hard stab at the pedal. Again, this is a far cry from GMs of old. You know, the Cobalt SS is a delightful piece. Wonderful engine, great handling and personality coming out of its oversized tailpipe like you can't believe. All of those analysts that suggest GM's forgotten how to build a good car, they haven't driven the Cobalt, and in particular, the Cobalt SS. Indeed, all of the good things, well, that's why the Cobalt won our Economy Car of the Year.
Our Midas tip of the week concerns starting procedures. Every once in a while I get a service call where I get there and the car cranks at normal speed and everything sounds okay, but it won't fire up. In many cases, it's as simple as altering the starting procedure to get the car going. Now, in older cars with carburetors, you know that you had to hit the throttle once or twice to get them started on a cold start. You were setting the choke and pumping a little bit of raw fuel into the engine, into the intake manifold to get it fired up. But with late model cars, anything since the mid-80s and up, with fuel injection, the nature of those cars is such that with the engine electronics, all you have to do to start them is reach in and turn the key. Now that's under ideal circumstances, they should fire right up. But every once in a while you'll get a situation where, for example, the car's being moved a short distance and shut off without thoroughly warming up. And if the weather's rough, a little bit damp, a little bit cold, and maybe the car's slightly out of tune, it won't restart the next time you come back to it. In that case, just put your foot to the floor on the throttle, crank it, the instant the engine fires up, come out of the throttle so you don't overspeed the engine. If the engine's out of tune, sometimes giving it just a little bit of throttle and cranking will get it to fire up. But in any case, never crank the engine over continuously for more than about 10 seconds, 15 seconds maximum, because your starter motor is not intended for continuous duty. You'll melt the starter motor and you'll drain the battery quickly. Let the starter motor rest. If it won't start, give it a minute or two and then try it again. That's your Midas tip of the week.
Today I think we've arranged a special driving event in winter conditions with some snow and some ice and some pretty sharp turns and even a slight slalom course to, I think, basically overcome the perception that a lot of people tend to have that the Little Smart is a great car but only in good weather. But also to get people to understand that it's not a toy car, it's a serious transportation device, and we're hoping to change the way people perceive mobility in terms of urban commuting and driving on the highway. They don't need big cars in order to go from point A to point B safely and also with a sense of fun and security.
It was my first time driving the Smart 4.2 today. I haven't even driven on the road yet, and my first experience has been driving it in the snow, and it's been quite impressive. Someone who is considering this car should really try it in the snow, because I think they would be really impressed with its handling, and you really have to try it to know what it's like.
It's very interesting because there's some comparisons as well, because it's a rear-engined, almost rear-drive car. Some comparisons compared to my old Volkswagen Beetle, which was my first car that I had. So there's a little bit of the old tail slide going on after a while, especially once it gets a little bit more slippery and the snow kind of goes away and there's more ice underneath. But overall, it says an incredible car. It's wonderful to drive. It's quite predictable in many ways. And I think even people who are kind of a bit apprehensive of driving in snowy conditions could do far worse than drive a Smart. I think it really is quite impressive little car, and the more I drive it, the more I like it.
In all weather conditions, I think this car is equal to just about anything else that's on the road, and perhaps you get a greater sense of safety than a lot of other cars that are on the road right now.
Presenting Jeep Huracan, a vehicle that really can turn on a dime. All shilling, centime or pfennig, pick any coin. Jeep Huracan is simply the most maneuverable, most capable and most powerful 4x4 ever built, brought to you directly from the wildest imaginations of the most extreme off-road enthusiasts in the world. First, Jeep Huracan is Hemi-powered. Scratch that. It's Hemi squared. There's one 5.7 liter Hemi engine in front and one in back. Both engines deliver 335 horsepower and 370 pound-feet of torque. Not to mention power to move from 0 to 60 in less than 5 seconds.
You look at the Jeep trail rating, what the trail rating is all about for the brand, and the categories that are represented on traction, power, maneuverability, etc. So we kind of took them on one by one and said, what would that get you if you had something that was just over the top, killer in every category? And that gets you into, well, you'd have to have steering on every wheel, you'd have to be able to turn on a dime, you'd have to be able to go straight up things, you'd obviously want power, you'd want traction at any corner, any time, high articulation, just this huge wish list. And by the time we're done, this is what we got. If we keep them stock, as Dieter mentioned, you've got 335 horsepower for each engine, but we've got the ability to obviously tune these and tweak them. So right now, with the header scheme we've got, the intake scheme, we're probably looking more about 700 horse total for the vehicle right now, and about 750 pounds-feet of torque. And believe me, it feels like it. With that much power, the car really does pitch when you let it go. It's a ball to drive. This is really all about what the Jeep brand can learn from it. So would you put this in production tomorrow as it sits? I don't think so, but would you take everything in here and look at it hard and see what was cool about it, what makes you more capable, and what gets you farther on the trail? Sure, that's the key.
This is the Ice Hotel Quebec, Canada, which is just located outside of Quebec City, 30 minutes west towards Montreal. This is our 5th season, so we've done this for 5 years, since 2001, and it is a complex of 12,000 tons of snow and 400 tons of ice, where people come and visit, and you can stay overnight. We have rooms, we have 32 rooms and themed suites. We have a chapel for weddings, we're gonna have about 20 this year, and we have a nightclub, reception room, we have a bar, we have all kinds of art galleries and special exhibits, so there's really a lot of things to see and a lot of things to do. In the hotel, it's -2 to -5 constantly because of the insulating factor of the snow, and we keep all the doors closed and things like that. In the rooms, when people go to bed, they use a sleeping bag that's a mummy-style sleeping bag that completely envelops them, and it's really cozy. Uses their own body heat. It's designed for -20, so it keeps them very warm in a -5 room. So we have no problem keeping people warm.
You know, when you get to be my age, an all-nighter is not having to get up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. So I don't see myself checking in to that Ice Hotel anytime in the near future. But having said that, from January to April, every single weekend at the Ice Hotel is sold out, which is why I am not in hotel management. All right, now let's head to the Quaker State Garage and join Bill Gardner.
Hey Brad, you didn't need to go to Quebec City. You could have just come over to my house. I keep the thermostat so low. My friends call it the Ice House. And as far as going to the washroom at night, Brad, involves shoes and a flashlight. Anyhow, this week I want to talk about potholes and the damage they can do to your vehicle, and how some vehicles are better at handling them than others. Now, this large diameter wheel and tire is typical of a van, pickup, or sport utility, and you can imagine how this big wheel and tire spans the small potholes and steps through the big ones a lot better without sending that shock through into the vehicle. Now, this low profile wheel and tire, this came off a 350Z, by the way. The rim to road dimension without any weight on this is 4 inches. I just measured it. And obviously with the weight of the vehicle on it, it's going to be a lot less than that. Now if I roll it out of the way, I measured this one at 6 inches, obviously a little bit less than that with the weight on, but you get the picture. More sidewall, more tire to absorb and cushion that impact. There's a lot of things you can do as a driver to minimize pothole damage. First and foremost, checking the tire pressure. An overinflated tire won't be flexible enough in the sidewall to absorb the energy from that impact. An underinflated tire will be too flexible and move all the way in, hit the rim, damage the tire and rim. Now, I obviously can't flex this tire enough to show you, but on a bicycle tire, you can see how we've got some inflation pressure there, but not enough. So if we go over an object or through a pothole, it's going to press the tire all the way down to the rim. Then the tire will be trapped between the rock and the hard place, literally, and it'll get cut on that sharp edge at the edge of the rim there. Press all the way in, and it'll end up damaging the sidewall of your tire. And that's what happens in a lot of pothole collisions. Till next week, I'm Bill Gardner for Motoring 2005.
Unlike Brad Diamond, your host and producer of this show, who I think was born with his hair combed, I am not by nature a tidy person. My office is a shambles. I carry pictures of my messy office with me, so when people start talking about how messy they are, I said, no, you're AAA. Check this out. This is Major League. But I keep my mess in my office. What I don't understand is people who throw their mess all over the road. We covered this a couple of years ago, and it's getting worse. Now, Canadians are supposed to be tidy. Whatever happened to that? Look at the stuff we found here. Please read before installing this automatic transmission. What, you're taking the transmission home and you decide to throw the instructions out the window before you get the transmission home? What else we got here? We got, oh, I see. When you're finished your bottle of Jordache Hugo for Men, you throw it out the window. What's wrong with people? Now, you do get an idea of what coffee sells best in this part of the world. Tim Hortons. Don't get me started on that stuff. And there's just junk all over the place. Super family sweepstakes from Wendy's. We got, what's this over here? Pete, follow me over here. This is the carton for a baby crib. They couldn't wait to get it home from the store. They took it out of the cardboard box and threw the box onto the roadway. That's teaching the kid young how to do it right. Folks, I don't understand this. Look at this. Oh, here's somebody else. I guess somebody really hated this CD. They just played it and they fired. Oh, wait a minute. It's a Celine Dion CD. That I can understand. I'm Jim Kenzie.
Few final thoughts on Volvo's new V50 and XC70. Once again, Volvo has shown that station wagons can be cool with a lot of performance, and they've also shown that with all-wheel drive and 4 good winter tires, it's almost impossible to get stuck, not to mention the added safety factor. Well, that's it for now. We'll see you next time out as we continue to bring you more stories about cars and the people who drive them.
I think it's like every other product. You need to have something that appeals to people on the road. You have to have a fresh look, something that will get them to take a second look at you.
TSN's Motoring 2005 has been brought to you by the new Q from Quaker State. Unleash all your horses. And Midas, for mechanics known for their work and their word. Trust the Midas touch.